This is my second video on punctuation. In this video, I will talk about apostrophes and commas. To start off with, to show you the difference between apostrophes and commas, on the left I have a picture of an apostrophe, right? And on the right, I have a picture of a comma. Apostrophes are up higher, commas are down lower. The most important thing to remember about apostrophes is that they are different than plural nouns. With this video, we could say that it is Andrea's video. So apostrophes show possession. That's one way that they're used. They show possession. So Andrea's video, it's my video. The video belongs to me. And then in terms of commas, there are many ways to use commas, which I will explain in this video. Just a quick note too, that I have already introduced the topic of punctuation by sharing different types of sentences and explaining how periods, question marks, exclamation marks, and quotation marks are used. Pictures of those types of punctuation are here. You can check out my Punctuation Part 1 video and notes for information about the first 4 types of punctuation that are shown above. So the period, the question mark, exclamation mark, and quotation marks. Apostrophes. Apostrophes can be used in 2 ways. First way, apostrophes are used to show possession or belonging. So another example, I already shared one in the previous slide, but another example, this is Frank's jacket. F-R-A-N-K apostrophe S, Frank's jacket. The jacket belongs to Frank. Another way to use apostrophes, apostrophes are used to make contractions. Here's one example below. I told him to wear his jacket, but he won't listen. Won't is the contraction. Another way that we could say it, instead of saying he won't listen, would be to say he will not listen. So won't is a contraction and won't is will not. So with contractions, what we do is we use the apostrophe to put 2 words together. So we're putting the words will and not together to make won't. W-O-N apostrophe T. So as you can see, it's fairly easy to use apostrophes, but using commas on the other hand can be a little bit more complicated. This is what this video will look like. Number 1, I will start with a few more examples of sentences with apostrophes. And second, I will give you a useful list of contractions. And third, we will talk about commas. Let me give you here this first example using an apostrophe. I'm the only person in this room. So you see at the top is a sentence without the contraction I apostrophe am, I'm. And then at the bottom you see a sentence that has it. And also, I thought this would be a good opportunity to do a little tiny bit of a sentence review. So you can see that in the correction here, there's a period at the end of the sentence too. So the rules are that you use an apostrophe with the contraction, I'm, and that you put a period at the end of a statement. In this first example, we have a contraction, I'm, I apostrophe am. Another way to write that would be to say I am. Next example, is that Tracy's book or is it Mary's? Of course, the correct writing is at the bottom here. Tracy's, T-R-A-C-Y apostrophe S, Mary's, M-A-R-Y apostrophe S. So you use an apostrophe to show belonging. And of course, we have a question here, right? You put a question mark at the end of a question. In this second example, we have 2 apostrophes to show belonging, Tracy's, Mary's. The question is asking who the book belongs to. Either the book belongs to Tracy or Mary. Third example, that's amazing. You use an apostrophe with the contraction, that's, T-H-A-T apostrophe S, and you put an exclamation mark at the end of an interjection. Earlier in this video series, I also mentioned interjections. I can only give up to 5 links, 5 clickable links for each video that I make, and I've used them all up. But at the end of this video, I'll provide a link. I can provide a link at the very end to my spelling and grammar section, which I highly recommend that you check out. So in this third example, "That's amazing" is an interjection, and one of the words is a contraction. That's, T-H-A-T apostrophe S, is "that is." So we could also say, "That is amazing" if we wanted to, but we didn't. We just said, "That's amazing," which is also fine. Fourth example, "Can I drive the Smith's car?" Can I drive the Smith's car? Careful here. You use an apostrophe to show belonging. Put a question mark at the end of a question, right? It is a question. In this fourth example, we have a situation where there is an S with an apostrophe after it. Can I drive the Smith's car? Smith's, S-M-I-T-H-S apostrophe. Here, a question is being asked about a car that belongs to a family with the last name Smith. When you talk about a family of people, you add an S to the end, the Smiths. And then, when you want to show belonging, that it's their car, the Smith's car, you put the apostrophe after the S. This doesn't happen too often, but it can happen, where you have a word that ends in an S and you need to show possession using that word, and then what you would do there is you would put the apostrophe at the end. You put the apostrophe after the S. Alright, my question to you is, do you need more examples of contractions? And remember, contractions is the second way of using apostrophes. I just wanted to give you a list. This is more for your information. I don't want to read through every example here, but I would like to share some important notes about contractions. Contractions are informal, so if you are writing a business letter, then you should not use them. Remember, a business letter would be to an organization that you might work for, or a situation where maybe you're applying for a job, right? So you want to make sure that you're taken seriously and that you're polite, and you want to be formal enough. So you wouldn't want to use a contraction in a business letter, but you could use contractions to sound more friendly in an email or in a personal letter. Contractions are also often used in conversation. Earlier I shared that interjection with you. "That's amazing." I could be talking to somebody about something that was really exciting, and I could use that contraction, "that's," if I wanted to. The next note, the word "it's," I-T apostrophe S, is different than "it's," I-T-S. Some examples. It's a nice day. It is a nice day. It's, I-T apostrophe S, a nice day. It is a nice day. Versus, the dog is happy and its tail is wagging. I-T-S, tail. So in the second example, what's happening here is that the dog's tail is wagging. The tail that belongs to the dog is wagging. Now, I know this is probably strange to you because I just said that you can use contractions and commas, right? So you've got "it's," right? "It is," which is a contraction. And then at the very beginning, I said how important it is to remember to use apostrophes to show belonging, right? And we're talking about the tail that belongs to the dog. Well, this is a special case, all right? This word "it's" happens when there is something, a thing. A dog is an animal, which is a thing, and that thing owns something, right? A dog has its own tail, right? So to show that the tail belongs to the dog, when we can use this word "it's," I-T-S, the dog is happy and its tail is wagging, I-T-S. All right, last little note here. There, and there. first one on top there. T-H-E-Y apostrophe R-E is a contraction. They are. Whereas there, T-H-E-R-E means over there. So something like, there it is. There, T-H-E-I-R, belongs to them, if something belongs to somebody. This is their dog. And I did get this example list, and I got the ideas for my extra notes from this website here. I just wanted to credit that source. And I also wanted to share the link in case you wanted more information. I shortened a lot of information for the purposes of this video. Last part of this video is all about commas. In this part I will discuss the following: conjunctions, adjectives, lists, names of people with their job titles, dependent clauses, transitions, adding information in the middle of a sentence. That's a lot to know about commas. And there's even a note down here that I will mention where there's even more to know. So there's a lot. Punctuation, especially punctuation, can get complicated when we're working with English. But if anyone's feeling like a little bit overwhelmed, I wanted to break this down a little bit and tell you a few things that I would want you to really think about more than anything else. The first is to, and you can see that they're highlighted, the first is to focus on coordinating conjunctions. And if you're thinking about coordinating conjunctions, you might also remember that you would use subordinating conjunctions to make dependent clauses. So earlier in this video series, I made a video on conjunctions, and at the very beginning of that video, I did a great job of going through and explaining coordinating conjunctions. And coordinating conjunctions are probably, in my opinion, the most useful thing that you could learn about in terms of wanting to write more complex sentences. So I recommend checking out my video on conjunctions and paying particular attention to really focusing on coordinating conjunctions and trying to use them properly in your own sentences. And then, of course, you can check out subordinating conjunctions, and in this video I'll share some external links as well. I'll mention some external links, some extra links, in case anyone would like to get into that. And then another important point that I will talk about at the very end of the video is to put commas around extra information. I'll show you how to do that. I'm mentioning it because I think it's one of the things that that happens when you write sentences, and it just kind of happens naturally. But if you were writing a test, say a test on punctuation, and you had to say you had to show where the commas are supposed to go, you might not notice it. But if you were writing the sentence yourself, you would know. But if you had a test and you didn't know that there were supposed to be commas in the middle, then you might not see it. So I wanted to give you some examples of that today. And just a note before I continue on with my commas here, is that in the next video, capitalization part 2, dates and addresses, you will see what happens with commas when you have days, months, years, cities, provinces, countries, street names, and postal codes. I hope I've thought of everything. As I've mentioned before, often correct punctuation and capitalization need to go together. Using dates and addresses properly is a great example of this. So even though my next video is on capitalization, there will be commas in it too. So check that out, please. Alright, commas with conjunctions. One way of using commas. Earlier in this video series, I already discussed conjunctions in detail. So here's a link to that video now. This is just one sentence as an example where a coordinating conjunction is used. The weather was cold, comma, but we still went sledding. The weather was cold, but we still went sledding. And you notice when I read a sentence and there's a comma, I sort of pause a little bit. The weather was cold, but we still went sledding. This example shows how you always put a comma before a coordinating conjunction. Notice how there's a comma before the word but, right? So but is our coordinating conjunction. And again, I already gave the link, but check out my video and notes about conjunctions. Commas and adjectives. And again here, earlier in this video series, I already discussed adjectives, so here's the link to that video with the notes now. This is just one sentence as an example where adjectives are used. My sleepy, adorable cat is lying on the new, expensive leather couch, and now the fresh, clean fabric is getting dirty. You notice we have some spots here, sleepy, comma, adorable, right? New, comma, expensive, comma, leather, right? New, expensive leather, right? And then we have fresh, comma, clean. So you put commas in between adjectives. You might also notice that this example uses the word and. Oh, it's actually a pretty complicated sentence. And here we actually have two thoughts put together. So I've taken out all of the adjectives so that you can see what I mean. My cat is lying on the couch, period. The fabric is getting dirty, period. We could put them together like this. My cat is lying on the couch, comma, and the fabric is getting dirty. As I mentioned at the beginning of this slide, check out my video and notes about adjectives. I have more examples of sentences there as well. Commas and lists. Oh, here's another case where I made another video. Near the beginning of this video series, I shared some examples of full sentences, and some of those examples showed you how to write lists. So this is, right here, is one sentence as an example where there's a list. Yolanda went outside, started the car, and drove away. This example shows a list of things that a person did. You need commas after each item on the list. Yolanda went outside, comma, started the car, comma, and drove away. Also notice that there is a comma before the word and. Right? Now, I just wanted to make a quick note on this because some people feel that you do not need to put a comma after the word and. In this case, you absolutely have to, but maybe if you said, my favorite colors are pink, blue, and purple, right? Maybe you wouldn't put a comma before and in that sentence. Now, in my teaching experience, I have been encouraged to tell people to put a comma before and. I think that doing this is easier to remember because the word and is also a coordinating conjunction. You always put a comma before a coordinating conjunction. So if you've learned it one way, just note that that for me, I'm looking for this comma before the word and whenever you have a list of things. All right, commas when you have names of people with their job titles. The teacher, Ms. Cole, really likes to talk. That's true, I do. Or, Ms. Cole, the teacher, really likes to talk. This example shows how you can give a person's name and then using commas say what job that person does. There's two options, right? We could go the teacher, comma, Ms. Cole, comma, or we could go Ms. Cole, comma, the teacher, comma. So when you have a person with a job title and you mention their name and job title in a sentence, you need to use commas. Just a quick note here, this is the same thing as adding information to the middle of a sentence. And I explained that at the end of this video. So we've got the words Ms. Cole in the middle of the sentence here, or we've got the words the teacher in the middle of the sentence here. Commas with dependent clauses, using subordinating conjunctions. Earlier in this video series, I talked about conjunctions. In that video, I explained subordinating conjunctions. Please keep in mind that my explanation of subordinating conjunctions is just a quick introduction. I just skip down to the bottom here. You can see that I've got some external links that you could visit. One link is for information that in my opinion, is really easy to follow. And then I even have a couple of links here to exercises. If you go to the notes for this video in my spelling and grammar section, and there will be a link to that at the very end of this video where you can visit my spelling and grammar section. You can check out the notes and you can click on these links. I'm not able to link to these links from this video, unfortunately. Alright, so here's my example of using a dependent clause, using a subordinating conjunction. Since it is winter, comma, we should go skiing. Since it is winter, we should go skiing. So you use a comma after a dependent clause. And the dependent clause is since it is winter, right? Since it is winter, comma, we should go skiing. Notice the word since, which is a subordinating conjunction. Subordinating conjunctions go at the beginning of dependent clauses. A dependent clause, like since it is winter, is just the start of a thought. So important. You need the words we should go skiing to finish the thought. All I'm trying to say is we need the whole sentence here. Since it is winter, we should go skiing. If we don't have this whole sentence, then we don't have a full thought and we won't make sense. Commas with transitions. You use transitions in paragraphs to help the reader follow along with what you are saying. Transitions make your writing nicer to read. So let me circle some transitions in a paragraph as an example. Remember to always put a comma after a transition. Here's a descriptive paragraph that describes some fun Halloween activities. And I've circled the transitions. Let me just read it out. There are many fun things to do for Halloween. The first thing that I always enjoy is carving a pumpkin and eating pumpkin seeds. This year, I want to make pumpkin pie, too. Also, there are often community events to go to. For example, I might want to participate in the pumpkin carving contest in Sioux Lookout. Lastly, I will need to be prepared for the trick-or-treaters. I don't know if I will dress up this year, but I should at least hand out candy. So I'm looking forward to the Halloween festivities. So there's 5 transitions in the example that I just read to you, and they are this year, comma, also, comma, for example, comma, lastly, comma, so, comma. Notice how there is a comma after each transition. Alright, finally, here we are at the last slide. Using commas to add information in the middle of a sentence. Let me just read these 2 examples first. Cleaning, for example, is something that not everyone likes to do. Clara, seeing the pot overflowing, turned down the stove. So this is what you should notice about these 2 sentences. Number 1, there are commas around words or short phrases that are in the middle. So we've got commas around the words for example in the first sentence, and in the second sentence we have commas around seeing the pot overflowing, right? Comma, for example, comma. Comma, seeing the pot overflowing, comma, right? We could write these sentences without the extra words in the middle, right? Without having for example in it, and without having seeing the pot overflowing in it. And that's what that would look like right here. Cleaning is something that not everyone enjoys. Or for the second sentence, Clara turned down the stove. Notice how the extra words just add information. They do not make full sentences on their own. So that's some really important information to know. Well, I hope that this video was helpful, and I look forward to the next one.